If you've been on Reddit, Twitter, or YouTube lately, you've probably noticed a lot of fear mongering. People are screaming some crazy shit. The game industry is crashing. It's gonna be like 1983 all over again. Layoffs, slow console sales, shrinking revenue, all of this doom and gloom. And I'm here to tell you, honestly, just shut up, pundits. We are in 2025, not in 1983. And the reason you're seeing people panic is because they don't understand how fundamentally different the industry is now compared to back then. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why it is structurally impossible for the video game economy to crash. And I'm going to break it down for you guys, and by the end, you're going to see how absurd this fear really is. Let's start with the first reason: retailers. Back in 1983, the gaming industry was completely dependent on physical stores. Every game that got sold had to sit on a shelf somewhere, and what happened was that a flood of low quality games, the shovel-load slop everybody talks about, literally filled up these shelves. We're talking cartridges that were rushed, broken, or unplayable. Retailers looked at all of that, realized that they couldn't sell it, and started pulling games from their stores. That's why revenue dropped so dramatically, so quickly in North America. The entire market was basically at the mercy of a handful of retailers, and when they pulled the plug, there was no backup. Sales crashed almost overnight. Now, think about this in 2025. Physical retail is irrelevant. Nobody is relying on GameStop, Walmart, Best Buy, or Target to decide whether a game lives or dies. We've moved into digital distribution, where publishers cannot just revoke a game, and platforms cannot suddenly remove it in a way that cuts off all sales because it's sold bad. People are still going to buy games. The revenue is not going to disappear. It's impossible. If somebody wants to buy a game digitally, they can. And if they want to buy multiple games, hundreds, thousands, it doesn't matter. The store isn't limiting them. Shelf space doesn't exist. That first point alone, retailers, makes the old 1983 scenario impossible. Reason number 2 is diversification. In 1983, the gaming industry was incredibly concentrated. Atari, Coleco, Mattel, these were basically the entire market. One company's failure, one flop, one misstep could ripple across everything. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Atari. If Atari released a bad game, if they mismanaged inventory, the whole system felt it. That's not the world we live in anymore, however, because in 2025, the industry is global and diversified. We have indie games, AA games, AAA blockbusters, mobile games from Japan, India, Australia, Europe, and the United States. Anybody can develop a game anywhere, and platforms exist for everyone. If a Western AAA title like GTA 6 somehow flopped, which is highly unlikely, mind you, sure, a company might take a hit, but does that mean the entire industry falls apart? Absolutely not. The failure is isolated. Nobody developing a AA JRPG in India cares about that flop. Nobody making mobile games in Australia is going to feel it. The market is spread across genres, platforms, and continents. It is structurally insulated from any single failure, and that's why diversification is the second reason the industry cannot crash. The third reason is digital distribution. I already touched on this a little from our first stuff, but let me expand. In 1983, bad games weren't just bad games, they literally took up physical space. There was finite shelf space. Every bad cartridge that sat on a shelf, it represented an opportunity cost. Retailers had to make decisions, and when the bad games piled up, they pulled products, and the entire market collapsed. Today, shelf space is infinite. A bad game doesn't block visibility for other games, it simply sinks quietly into the digital ether stream. And on top of that, platforms offer refunds. If you buy a game that sucks, you can get your money back. All of these factors isolate failure to the individual developer or publisher. A bad game doesn't threaten the rest of the market. Games die quietly now. This is why digital distribution alone makes a crash impossible. The structural mechanism that caused the collapse in 1983 simply does not exist today. Reason number 4 is consumer information. Back in the early 80s, customers had no idea to know what they were buying. You had a box, maybe a manual, and that was it. You could buy a game and get burned. And if that happened enough times, trust in the entire medium eroded. That's why the crash happened. People stopped buying games because they didn't know if they would be good. Now, information is abundant. Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, GameSpot, Game Informer, streams, IGN, influencers, gameplay footage, you name it. Consumers have unprecedented access to information before they make a purchase. You literally cannot get burned by buying a game unless you willingly walk past all the red flags and buy the game anyway. That's why consumer knowledge makes a crash structurally impossible. Even if the game flops, the damage is once again personal, localized. It cannot affect the broader ecosystem. This is the best possible time to be a gamer. If you make smart choices, you won't get burned and the industry itself remains robust. And finally, reason number 5, infrastructure. Back in 1983, gaming was a novelty. It was a toy. It wasn't part of a social system. It wasn't driving content creation or global entertainment. That's why consumer panic could collapse the market. Today, gaming is one of the central parts of pop culture and social infrastructure. Twitch, esports, content creation, streaming communities, social interactions, and even vocabulary are tied to gaming. Even if a few companies fail, the activity itself will not disappear. And the AAA scene, it's not failing, it's shifting. Companies evolve, genres evolve, and terms like AAA or indie are fluid. These changes don't threaten the industry, they are evidence of adaptation. Gaming is embedded in our culture. The ecosystem is far too large, far too diverse, and far too essential to vanish. The only thing that would crash the gaming industry would be some sort of global internet outage for an extended amount of time. Which, if that happened, we would have much more to worry about than some lame-ass video game industry. So, stop fear-mongering. The video game industry is alive, thriving even, and structurally bulletproof. Layoffs and flops are macroeconomic pains, not systemic collapse. Or, well, microeconomic, my apologies. So yes, the next time you see a panic post online, take a breather, check the facts, and remember, the industry is not dying. It's simply shifting, okay? So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do all of that. If you were just as angry as me from these lame-ass interaction farm pundits, like the video. Spread the word, you know what I'm saying? This is a reality check to some of these gaming motherfuckers. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.